What is going on, Wolfpack Nation? Welcome to another Tuffy Talk episode, y'all. We are rolling here, and we are excited today to be welcomed by Chris Hathcock, who you might, a lot of people might say, who is Chris Hathcock, otherwise known as the Mic Man, otherwise known as, probably the last of his kind, honestly. And it's honestly a role that I definitely think needs to be brought back. And that's part of the reason why I reached out to Chris. But I'll kind of let Chris kind of maybe say a little bit more about what his role was at NC State. But I would blame you, Chris, as the person that for maybe a lot of State fans who maybe recognize it, but where the student section is, there's still a little speaker that's on a pole right at the front of the main student section, and it's not used now. But that was your, I'll guess I'll give it to your baby. That was all from you, right? So I mean, kind of give me, like, how would you describe your role during that time at NC State for you? What was your role, you would say?
Yeah, so I mean, basically my role was kind of like the way that, because it was like I contacted Harold Trammel, who's the head coach for NC State cheerleading. Basically, the Mic Man's job is just to try to keep the students engaged, somewhat, matching what the cheerleaders are doing. But obviously, I'm not going to be able to get the students to do the cheerleading cheers. So more of just trying to, keep the student section together, because obviously we were sections 7 through I think 10 on that side of Carter Finley, or 9 something. So, we got a big area to cover. Yep. And the cheerleaders are only there in that one little spot. So with the 2 speakers at the other ends of that main student section, trying to get everybody, stay on beat. That was definitely the hardest thing being about Mic Man, because everybody wants to speed up, red and white, because we just got to love to say, Go to North Carolina. But basically I was just trying there, keep the student section going, keep the energy going, because even if, offense did a turnover, we got to get out there, get loud for the defense. So hopefully we get the ball back. So I was just kind of there to be like this, in a way, like student liaison between the cheerleading squad and student section, but just try to keep the energy going throughout the whole football game as best I could.
Yeah, and just to make it clear, too, to maybe those NC State fans who maybe still aren't really putting two together in terms of where you were. So basically, you were on the field. You had a microphone to that speaker, to that small little speaker at the front of the student section. And so you'd be the one saying, get loud. You'd be the one saying, basically leading the cheers, things like that. And you would always be dressed to the nine, even have face paint a lot of times, had your NC State wig, your NC State overalls, all that. You were full dressed out, and you had your flag and everything like that. So you're basically the student section leader, but not only for football, but men's basketball, women's basketball, any other sports primarily, or just mainly those 3?
Yeah. So like my official title of Mic Man was basically just for football. My other nickname was Superfan. That was because I went to all the other sports. So basically my spot for men's basketball and women's basketball were both because I was in the student Wolfpack club, and I basically went to every, soccer game, baseball game, softball game. So I was a leader in the minutes for the student Wolfpack club. So I had my same seat every game while I was at State. Yeah. And then so for baseball, my freshman year was the first year that they started Avon's Army. And I asked them, and they let me bring my flag in. So I was posted up down there along the third base line, basically right there at left field. And then when they added the bleachers, I'd go up on the top of there. But that was just kind of me being me. Mic Man was the one where I had the special proof where I got the badge that said, hey, you can go and be on the sideline for the game. But yeah, I'm lucky I've been able to say I've been to every NC State varsity sport in person. I even got to see rifle before it got discontinued when they finally had a match, whatever. I can't remember the official rifle term, but we faced West Virginia. It was right after the woman from West Virginia. She won a gold medal for shooting in the Olympics, and then she was on the West Virginia rifle team, so I got to see her compete. But main ones, of course, because of TV, men's basketball, women's basketball, and then baseball.
So kind of give me a little bit about you. So what years did you attend NC State?
So NC State. So I started undergrad fall of 2005. So way back with Herb Sendek and Chuck Amato. We want to go way back then. Katie, she was still alive, so I had to see 4 years of her at state. But and then I was working through grad school and finally got my master's 2019. So yeah, I was at state for a while. We're trying to get through a grad school and all that. So I was probably set the record for most sporting events attained by a student, or at least while having a valid student ID.
Absolutely. And so I mean, I know you had said earlier that you had reached out to Coach Harold Trammel, the head cheerleading coach. What year was that? What year was that you reached out to Coach?
So that was 2010. So basically we had, state fans might know him as Mean Gene, but I believe he works for the Hurricanes now. He was kind of the mic man during my undergrad. And then they were thinking about making a change. And I thought they were going to do like tryouts or something, but that like fell through. And then to that fall of 2009, there was some random guy I'd never seen before. He went through that season, and then basically right up probably beginning of August of 2010, I just emailed the cheerleading coach. It was like, "Hey, Coach Trammel, I'd like to see, could I try out to be mic man, for the first game?" I want to say Western Carolina was who we opened up with that season. And I basically just put out there, like, try for a game. If you think I'm doing a bad job, you don't have to, give them an out. So like, don't book me for the whole season. But he first comes out, "Hey, are you available for the rest of the season? Because we like some consistency." I was like, absolutely, seeing as I haven't missed a football game since I've been a student, and I don't expect that to change. So yes, I will gladly try out and you will be the mic man for this season. And it worked. And so I was mic man for 5 years, for 5 football seasons. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And, it's funny. There's so many questions going through my head because I attended state, 2013 through 2017. And, 2014, 2017. And so I was there during the last back end of your career. So like, there was all these questions coming up, like who this guy is and things like that. So I guess kind of another question is, so would you say that once you became mic man, that like your amount of dedication to NC State sports like went up, or were you always attending state events way before? And also too, would you say that your outfit changed at all once you became mic man as well? So dedication to state, that's always been the level that I've been at. Like I grew up in Gastonia, North Carolina. If people aren't familiar, that's right outside of Charlotte. So I've always born and raised North Carolinian. Growing up, was able to make it to some football games whenever we could. But basically, once I became a student, like, I'm here for academics because I'm an aerospace engineering major, but my fun would be athletics. And so all my free time was like, I'm going to NC State games. So that's what basically built up me being known as super fan, because like starting freshman year, starting fall of 2005, every football game, every men's basketball, women's basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, like out at Method Road, that was way back when. But yeah, like dedication, that's always been the same. Outfit changed a little bit. Basically, I would do, like, I always had my wolf hat. That started freshman year, so that carried through. At one point, I'd gotten suspenders and I glued on NC State and a Wolfpack on the side. But basically, when I became mic man, Coach Trammel was like, if you want to change up your outfit or whatever, just let us know. We got a little money in the budget. And that's when I found the website, that gamebibs.com, for the red and white striped overalls. And I was like, what if you put like a block S, right on the front? He was like, you got it. And so he ordered it for me, and that was my outfit as mic man. Well, and I love it too, how Coach even incorporated you even into the budget too. It's like that. I feel like I'm kind of speaking if that were me, but I feel like that would be the moment where I feel like that, like, my sense of, wow, I belong, kind of just went up even a notch, being like, man, like even part of the cheerleading budget is included for me now. Like that's pretty sweet. So, I mean, like, would you say that there's a moment to you during your mic fan experience that you kind of had that out of body, like, just like, wow, like, is this really happening experience?
I mean, so kind of, I'd say like that very first game, because like I'd always had, like, the flag that I used, it was my own personal flag. I had it at all the baseball games, leading up to that. So it was one of those where hopefully, like, as soon as I like appear on the field, like, not every student knows who I am, but the majority of ones who, attend athletics pretty regularly, at least recognize me, that I'm not just some random person all of a sudden, like, hey, this guy looks familiar. Maybe the overalls are new, but everything else I've seen before. Yeah. So I was kind of hoping like my reputation would precede me a little bit. And so they even had it set up where for that first game, they had a little snippet read by it was Dr. Funkhauser was the PA guy for football that year, to basically like, hey, we're trying to make NC State student section one of the best student sections, in the conference. We got a new mic man and basically, give it up for basically Chris Hathcock. And so I basically tried to do like a little, like, here's what we got to do. When we start Wolfpack chant, start out slow because you got to give, I would joke, like, you got to give the alumni a little time to wake up and get going. So, don't go Wolfpack, because it sounds better when it's Wolf pack, like, get it going, like, give them time for the alumni to get going. And then also, like I said earlier, like, don't speed up the red and white song. Like, follow me. I'm listening to the band a little easier and better than you are. So, like, let's get everybody to say the parts at the right time. Because if you always pay attention at football, during the second playthrough of red and white, student section's always probably like 3 seconds fast when the Go State at the end because they want to speed everything up. But yeah, it was just like I'd actually been able to get on the field before because leading up to that, the band started doing the Go Pack and Go State chants the band chants that they had, and they had us introduce them during pregame. So I got to go with Dr. Garcia. He picked me to start him out on the field. So I had a little bit of experience, being in front of the stadium, talking through the PA system. Obviously, Mike Man, it's more localized to just the students, but I kind of already had that feel of being down there. So it was more of just, go with the flow. I know what it's like. I obviously know football, just keep the students as behind the pack as we can and keep the energy up as much as possible. And that was basically the way I looked at it, and I had a blast doing it.
Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need. Offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. Yeah, no, and it's funny that and I guess we can kind of just jump into it a little bit here, but I do want to ask, like where has it gone? Like what, like, because you said what year was your last year, NC State? 2015, right?
2014. 2014 was the last
14
football season. Yeah.
So what happened after that? Because I'm sure maybe you might have. I'm sure maybe you asked or somebody asked, like, okay, well, who's going to take over for you after you leave?
Yeah, I just said, like, I'm getting too busy. Like, basically life was getting changed a little bit around 2015. So I said, like, if you want to know, like if you want me to be a part of, like, whoever picks or whatever, like, I can do that or what. But it just kind of, I just left it in the hands of cheerleading because that's essentially who they would work with. And so I just left it be. And then I, started attending games as just the regular fan. And it appears like, it didn't get picked back up. So I might be the last Mike Man in NC State history. But it was always like that hit or miss, because if you're talking too much to the mic, you start to get annoying and stuff. But I was trying to always find that happy medium. But if it do end up, being like, if they don't bring a mic man back or they just use one of the cheerleaders, hopefully, like, I at least left it on a high note, speaking.
Well, and we'll kind of pick that up too here in a little bit too, but I think it's definitely needed once again, and because even still, like, Chris, I know I think that's almost a synonymous thing now with the NC State students, which I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the band faces away from the student section during the pregame stuff. It's like when they do the red and white, like they're facing away.
Mm-hmm.
So it basically all the students are hearing is just basically the sound, bouncing off the stadium or whatever. So, but they always are just flying, like halfway through red and white, they're just flying through. And it's just, I think it's almost just like synonymous now that you'll hear a go state from the student section, then you'll hear a go state from the other side. So I mean, does that kind of, when you hear that, does that bug you at all now? It's like, that's like, I wish it was more in sync, or would you say at this point it's like, it is what it is?
Oh yeah, I mean, it is what it is, because I tried for 5 years to I feel like I helped a little bit while I was there on the field, because I would be like, watch me, and I would do keep essentially a local drum major, trying to keep it on beat and at least get the first 10 rows that were paying attention on the right beat. But yeah, it's just one, I always knew it was a losing battle. It's just kind of a running joke between me and my friends, like, all right, let's see how fast the students get this time. So it's just I'd say it's one of our traditions. We go with it.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, and so I wanted to ask you too, because maybe some people watching or listening, or even myself, again, always heard stories or rumors about why you were at NC State for so long. Now I know that on your Twitter page, which for those who are curious to give Chris a follow, it's at Chris L Hathcock, HATHCOCK. So make sure to go give him a follow, y'all. But that on your Twitter page, it has Master of Rocket Science, which kind of goes with. So basically what I always heard was that basically that you were studying, I'm assuming, aerospace, rocket science, whatever it may be. And what I always heard was that basically NASA paid for you to finish your schooling, getting your doctorate. And you were, and again, this is what I'm hearing. And again, you can tell me I'm wrong, but this is always what I heard, was that basically they were paying for you to go to school, and you were sitting there like, well, I mean, if they're paying for me to go to school and I can still stay and continue to cheer on NC State athletics, then I'm here for it. Now, how much of that is true? Is that way off, or is that within the ballpark of what's actually true? Set the story straight, if you don't mind, Chris.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd say partly true. So I got a scholarship. Well, it's called GSRP, so the Graduate Student Researchers Program. Through NASA, and I got that starting my second year of grad school. And I was working towards my PhD, but just the research wasn't working for me. And so NASA funding was only about 3-4 years of that, and then the rest was me trying to get it done, but I just wasn't able to. So I was able to finish. I have my master's, so I was able to finish with my master's out when it all said and done. But it was just. NASA helped, but most of those things were my good family that helped me finish up. But yeah, that's awesome.
So are you working for NASA now?
Not right now. So when I finished up my master's, I actually saw a posting on my EPAC, with the job posting website, to be a officer in the Air Force, and so I was trying to apply to be an officer in the Air Force, and I lost weight to get down to qualify, went through that whole process, but then COVID hit. And so that put a stop on all the officer training boards and recommendation boards. So I was at that time, I was substitute teaching around Wake County. So of course that stopped that. And then then actually, when I was told that the Air Force was getting back their boards, I got a job at UPS in Raleigh because the gyms were closed because of COVID. So I'm like, let me get a job to help basically pay me to work out. So I got a job at UPS. And then when school started back in, I would sub half days around Wake County. But now I'm trying to hopefully get a job as a technology and engineering teacher in Wake County. So that's what I'm going for right now.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely a big change for sure. Definitely from the NASA rocket science way that sounds like you started with for sure. But it sounds like maybe you found at least what you love to do for sure, like, enjoy doing.
Oh yeah, like I love teaching. I've been a math tutor for a couple of years now, and I've done just about a good majority of high schools and middle schools around Wake County. That because when I was at state in grad school, I did TA and teach a couple of MAE courses, so I have that kind of in my blood, you could say, from grad school, and so I just know I enjoy teaching, and so hopefully I'll be able to be a high school teacher here shortly.
That's awesome, man. Well, I do want to jump into a little bit more about the Mike Man stuff. So during your 5 years at NC State, is there something that you put in place that you started or whatever that maybe a lot of state fans, even still do now that maybe we aren't aware of? Like, what would you say that your impact has been? Have you changed anything, brought anything in?
I mean, I'd say my main thing is that you see the people wearing the red and white striped overalls. Like I feel I started that. And so, and then even so, you go into the bookstore and there's a teddy bear with a red t-shirt and red and white striped overalls. My wife absolutely loved that. So like I feel that's the main thing is that's now you see that sprinkled throughout the student section. So even after, 9+ years, that little bit is still carrying on.
I love it. So during your time at State, do you have certain favorite games that really stand out to you from the 2005 to 2014 years that really stand out to you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we had, looking at football, there was, the comeback against Maryland where we were down bad at the half and they score there early in the second half and you just hear basically air let out of the stadium and it's like, hey, let's get it going. And sure enough, we make it a comeback. And what is it? Earl Wolf, I think, seals it with a pick six to even cover. So just that great comeback. The win streak against Carolina. Those were always good games in Carter Finley. Even more recently, the comeback to beat Carolina, Meze in the end zone, just thinking like, oh great, we should have won this game, and feeling down bad after that long field goal. But hey, it ain't over till it's over. Russell Wilson, beating Florida State, Mike Glennon beating Florida State with every crossing pattern route that we could throw at them. Those were some classic wins. If we want to go way back, even though it was a little bit of a downer year after it, the Daniel Evans to Dunlap in the end zone to beat Boston College, that was a crazy game.
Yes.
But yeah, and then
amen.
Basketball just getting up like on 20 on Carolina and holding on. We're wearing our all red. And we had game day, and I think it was Purvis's dunk, and I absolutely could not hear any. Like that is the loudest I've ever heard PNC. And so just those great games, and of course now recently, heck, the run to win an ACC championship. Like I was following like watching on TV, but you're just kind of numb because you're like, can we do it? And like, because you have that faith as a State fan, but then there's that voice in the back of your head where you're like, when is it going to go bad? And it's just stuff. And then you're like, just like when you're like watching, like, okay, wait, like this is usually where it turns, but it hasn't yet. We can do this. Like, keep it going, guys. And sure enough, they got it. And then the rest is history with the Final Four run. So that was just a whole month of euphoria,
Oh yeah. And we'll get more thoughts from you for sure in terms of state of state athletics right now in part two. But the last question, which I want to ask to wrap up part one here, is so during your time at State, I mean, I know during my time as an equipment manager that being on the sidelines, like you always have to keep, your eyes, on the move because you never know, who's going to come out, or, who's going to run into you or, what's going to happen, who's going to cross in front of you, whatever that may be. So while you were standing on the sidelines, did you ever have any interesting experience of, players bumping into you or saying something to you or people saying something to you or anything like that? Like any funny stories during your time on the sidelines at State?
I'd say like the only one, because I would always like joking like Anchorman, you got to keep your head on a swivel. So I always made sure that was happening. And cheerleaders, they did a pretty good job as well. And so there'd be a couple times where like the field judges or line judges for the rest, they'd be like, if the play comes here, I move this way. He's like, so make sure you're not there. I go, I understand, sir, because we have a little like 2-yard buffer, like it shows on the sideline, like where our spot is, but it's like the ref's like, I might come in here, but you can't impede me. I go, I understand. I don't want to get an unsportsmanlike conduct on the mic man. I don't want any of that. But but yeah, nothing really like that, because we're near like Mike Man and the cheerleaders there were right next to the visitor sideline, but they were usually more focused on yelling at the students behind me than me. So I never really had any of those type of interactions, but it was just kind of like, if I could tell a play was coming our way, the cheerleaders were always facing the game. So we, shuffle out of the way. Because you don't want to get hit by a football player and you don't have any protection or pads. So you're just that was just kind of like nature of the job, so you're just paying attention constantly, or, something bad could happen. So, but yeah, luckily nothing ever like that while I was on the sideline. So,
good.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny because like where you are, on the sideline, which is basically right at beside the end zone, basically, is a good spot to be, because I feel like that one of the dangers that you have if you're more towards the middle of the field on the sidelines is that you'll have cases where somebody's running up the sideline and you're not sure if that person's going to get hit, like straight out bounds, or if they're just going to kind of basically do like kind of slowly go out of bounds. Like it's kind of hard to read those plays, when they're on the sidelines like that. So for me, where I've been on the middle field, I got trucked one time by Matt Days because I thought that he was going to get hit harder and miss me, but he actually kind of got just like barely pushed. So he just kind of went slightly out of bounds and went right into me and trucked me over, and completely on accident, obviously. But yeah, like lucky enough, I think where you were, it was a good spot for sure to try and avoid some of that stuff. But
yeah, because like I'm down in basically the red zone, so basically if someone's running full speed, like you see it coming. Whereas if it's like, a long run, either you can tell we're going to catch them or they're going to get caught or whatever. So it's like, it's not that bang, bang, like the middle of the field where more can develop. So you can kind of see it coming, or it's right there at the goal line. So it's a little more contained. So we just kind of, you look out for the corner, the post routes when they're coming in to back up, to just give them plenty of room to do whatever. But stuff like basically like, the closest it was ever really was like when David Amerson had his awesome year with interceptions. He made I think it was the school record when he tied, because he set the ACC record in the Belt Bowl in Charlotte, but the school record, he caught it, and it was right in front of me. And so like he caught it, and then when I saw him trying to run out of the end zone, like, I'm going to get back, because I knew that the defenders or the offense was going to try to come and take him out. So I backed away from that. But yeah, you just kind of knew, being more so like down there in the corner, paying attention, but also you could see like the way the play was developing, whether or not you had to like really get out of the way or not.
Yeah. Well, Wolfpack Nation, we'll take a pause right there. And again, in part 2, we'll talk a little bit more about, because something I'm very interested in is talking about kind of his thoughts, Chris's thoughts on the current state with the environment of Carter Finley Stadium specifically, but also talking a little bit of just general NC State sports as well. And we'll kind of dive more into that in part 2. So make sure, again, y'all, if you haven't already, make sure to give Chris a follow, y'all, on Twitter at Chris L. Hathcock, at Chris L. Hathcock on Twitter, and make sure to go give him a follow there, and to just give him much love for sure, as we definitely appreciate and love all that he did during his time in state for sure, where he is definitely a legend, no doubt about it, for sure. But for our end, if you want to make sure you do not miss out when we release part 2, y'all, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. If you enjoyed this conversation, please do us a big favor, hit that like button, and wherever you're listening to this, if you're listening to this on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, iHeart, whatever it may be, please do us a favor as well and leave a 5-star review. We greatly appreciate that as well. And give us a follow, Tuffy Talk Now, on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitter, y'all. But thank y'all so much for tuning in, and we'll see y'all for part 2, and go Pack, y'all.